Welcome to episode 564 of Salsidoparanormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I am sharing true paranormal stories from the web. As always, you can find all episodes of the show along with links to social media and other ways to contact me at the podcast page. That is salsidoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from y'all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions or stories of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Happy to either read those or have you join me on the show to talk about them. Thank you all for listening, whether you are here for the live streams on Discord, or if you listen to the podcast or YouTube feeds, or on the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP, digital broadcasting. There you can hear replays of 2 episodes of the show every night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right before Troubled Minds Radio comes on. And as always, I want to thank Michael Strange, host of Troubled Minds Radio, for putting my shows up on the station. And if you'd like to support the show, there are some different ways to do that. You can always share the show with others and rate and review it on your favorite podcast platform. You can find paranormal fiction and nonfiction books I've written over on Amazon. You can also sign up for any paid membership tier level of my Patreon page to get 1 extra show per month, whenever possible. Or you can just make one-time donations through PayPal. Help is never expected, but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows, from equipment to research materials to travel expenses in some cases. And so takes care of all of that. Just a quick announcement. I will start doing sort of a themed themed version of this show every week. Starting next week, it'll probably be the last show of every week, where I use a certain word or phrase as a search term, and all the stories will have that in common. And I think that'll be fun. I've got a couple things already, a couple terms I want to put in there and see what we find, and so those will be fun. I think that'll be good. And I'm not going to put in basic things like sort of UFO or cryptid or ghosts. I kind of want to keep the whole variety of just everything unexplained or paranormal. But we will, again, like I said, put in things like elevators. It's going to be one. Gas stations is another. Hallways is a third. I think workplace experiences or whatever. Even like nighttime workplace experiences. That kind of thing. Night shift. All those things. I think those would be good episodes, and then we can figure out where we want to go from there. So, moving on to the stories here for tonight. This first one says, once I find it. Okay. Oh, yeah, this was a longer one that I didn't want to try to read last time. We only had a few minutes left. This one says, I have been wondering about an experience that happened 36 years ago when I was 8 years old. While at a grocery store with my mother, I looked up and saw a strange creature. That's ironic that we were just talking about grocery stores and places like that earlier. Here you go, Derek, Night Stalker. Of course, that's Stocker, as in grocery store. So the creature was about the same height as me, or slightly shorter, with rough brown skin and a head that made up more than 1/4 of its body. The creature had a broad figure and looked somewhat human, but not entirely human. It was dressed in human clothes, winter clothes, in various shades of blue. The creature's face was huge, with a very big mouth, turned down in a grumpy expression. I looked up at it 5 times to confirm if what I saw was real, as I was not sure. After the incident, I developed a fear of the number 5 and the color of blue, as the creature was wearing blue clothes. My mother didn't seem to notice anything unusual and was annoyed by my sudden strange behavior, as she was tired, stressed, and wanted to get home. I didn't tell my mother about the creature because I usually kept my problems to myself. Despite numerous web searches over the years, I have never been able to figure out what I saw that day. I have not experienced any other strange sightings since then. What do y'all think I might have seen that day many years ago? And there we go. That's the end of that one. And I don't know what they saw. Some kind of creature. I wonder how often. I wonder how often I wonder how often they use sort of they use like winter clothes. Other entities use winter clothes to try to blend in, or even just like large amounts of clothes or anything like that. I wonder how often that happens, and so that most people don't even really notice that they're not the same or not completely human like the rest of the people around them are. Or was it just that because this was a kid at the time, they were the only one to see this figure? Because it doesn't sound like the mom saw it, or at least didn't see what they saw. So I wonder how often that happens. But yeah, I wonder about the clothes. It seems like that'd be if you wanted or needed to be out in public, that'd be a good way to do it. Just wear a bunch of clothes. Hide as much of yourself as possible. And then, of course, once in a while, you may still get noticed. So I don't know what that one, but that's what that story makes me wonder about there. But yeah, we were just talking before the show started about in an earlier show tonight about grocery stores and workplace encounters. Derek says, I wonder if that's how the ghost in a white sheet trope started. Way back in the day, they would cover themselves in all kinds of laundry. Yeah, could be. Especially if they only stayed in a house, if they didn't really venture out anywhere. Or even if they did, they used what was initially there that they could find, and the sheets and all that's what they found. That can make sense as well. So yeah, and but then as time goes on, maybe different. I don't know. I think there are places that take in donations, like some places I've seen have these big boxes, metal container kind of things. Then they're for like donating clothes, and I wonder how hard it would be for some entity to go and sort of pick out that kind of clothing for themselves. In other words, they didn't necessarily buy any of that stuff. They just went and found it in various places in various ways. And so, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, their night closed back in the day too. Ricky says in the chat there. Yep. Yeah. So, um, yeah, lots of possibilities there. But I wonder about that. And again, I wonder, did anyone else in the store see that figure and just write it off because it doesn't seem like it was normal? So I must be imagining it. There's always that question as well. So, but moving on to the next story here. This one says, let me see here. I lost it. Okay, there we go. This one says, this encounter happened about 12 years ago when I lived in my family home with my parents and two brothers. I had experienced many strange and unexplainable things in this house, but this incident was the strangest. The house was a 3-story building with the attic converted into one of my brother's bedrooms. I came out of the bathroom on the second floor and saw a figure rush past me, knocking over some stacked boxes and running up the stairs to the attic. As I stacked the boxes back up, I looked up the attic stairs and saw one of my brothers standing a few steps up in the dark staircase. My brothers looked very similar at the time, making it hard to determine which one it was. The figure and I stood and stared at each other in silence for a few seconds before the figure ran further up the stairs and into the bedroom. I heard the figure's footsteps hitting the floor, which sounded unfamiliar and didn't match either of my brother's footsteps. Distinctive footsteps. And I can say real quick, certain people you can get to recognize them by their footsteps. That is a thing. So, although I didn't question what had happened, I felt uneasy. It had a chill running through me. Excuse me. There we go. And a sinking feeling in my stomach. I went downstairs trying to remember which brother was wearing blue jeans and a white t-shirt, as that's what the figure was distinctively wearing. Upon reaching the kitchen, my stomach dropped as my entire household, including both brothers, wearing shorts and colorful t-shirts, was present, and there was no one else in the house. I not only saw the figure, but also heard and felt its presence. Why did the figure look like my siblings? Why did it stop and stare at me before running away? Did it want me to follow? What would have happened if I did? That's where that one ends. A lot of things going on there. A lot of little details. The way that it appeared to be their brother, the writer's brother, or one of them, and then it's just, you have that sighting, and it has effects on the physical environment. But then obviously it didn't go downstairs. It went up into the attic. So then I'm guessing when they all went up there later on that night or whatever, I'm guessing there was no one there. So who exactly was that? But yeah, I don't know. It's really odd. I wonder again, was it some other entity? Or was it one of their brothers from another time or universe or something like that, where they were just as startled to see the writer there as the writer was to see them. And I always wonder about that kind of situation. Because especially if that doesn't happen again. Now, the writer did say that they had other experiences in that house. So it sounds like it might have been an active area at least for them. But I don't know with that one. That really is amazing. But yeah, I don't have much more to say on that one. So we'll get at least one more story done here tonight. And let me see here. Need to scroll down. Logan says hello, apparently. Let me see here. That's my cat, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know. Okay, here we go. This says, this story took place nearly 20 years ago in Arizona. I was spending time with friends, D and K, sitting on D's couch watching TV, when we decided to visit the smelter, apparently iron or steel work kind of area, in a nearby town. The smelter was built in the late 1800s and used to process metals. I had previously visited the smelter every weekend during junior high with my best friend M, who lived in that town, but nothing weird had ever happened. After we arrived at the smelter, we noticed that the stairs to the smokestack had been removed, likely by the property owner to deter kids from entering. I explained that the holes in the catwalk were used to shovel ash. Unable to enter, we moved to the side and spent about 15 minutes being loud and joking around. Suddenly, it became quiet and still, and thousands of bats came screeching out of the smelter's windows. I remember that we had been making noise for nearly 20 minutes and couldn't have scared the bats. Immediately after, we heard a loud thud, as if something heavy had fallen down a porthole, followed by silence and two more thuds. We then heard the loudest screeches ever, and dust started flying up as if a bird was moving around on the ground, but nothing was visible. The invisible entity circled us, getting closer as we huddled together, seemingly forgetting that we could run. Eventually we did, and Dee commented, if someone told me this story, I wouldn't believe them. And that's where that one ends. So the thousands of bats thing, it would have to be a pretty darn big building, I would think, to have thousands of bats come out of it. That's my first thought on that. So I wonder if that, in addition to the invisible, excuse me, the invisible yet screeching and moving creature after, was also something unexplainable. Was it really bats that flew out of there? Was it sort of, I don't know. just what their minds are able to process. And then having that other thing happen after with this creature that was invisible. That's a lot to have happen in such a short time. And it does seem weird. They were talking about how they had been making noise for about 20 minutes. Okay, so that's a good point. Thank you. I wasn't sure about that. In the chat there, Jeff says you'd be surprised how many bats will fit in a place. Okay, so that's why I'm glad I have chat here sometimes, because I have no idea. I don't know much about the natural world. But even okay, so that's fine. That's good. At least we have a possible way to explain that away. Obviously, the other part is not so easy to explain away. I wonder how similar the screeching from the creature, the invisible creature, sounded like the screeching from the bats. I don't know. I'd be curious to know about that. So let me see here. Jeff in the chat says, I once witnessed basically a National Geographic type event out of a neighbor's attic. Wow. Okay. Well, that's amazing then. So then did it just take 20 minutes for hundreds? Okay. Did it just take 20 minutes for the sounds to travel to them and wake them up? I wonder. I don't know, but yeah, Derek in the chat says, this must be how every random criminal in Gotham City feels when Batman shows up at night. Yeah, bats coming from somewhere and then a mysterious invisible presence. Yeah. But yeah, when it's time to feed, it's time. There we go. That's another good point there. So yeah, I don't know. It's really amazing though that invisible. It must have been something decent size if it was stirring up dust on the ground, and then just the sense of fear that it generated in the people there. I'm glad they were able to get away. I wonder if they ever went back or not. I wouldn't blame them if they didn't. But it sounds almost like an invisible creature, a cryptid or something that was there and that was stirred up as well. Maybe along with the bats by the fairly new presences there. Makes me wonder over the years how many people that were able to go into the building. Did any of those people have any experiences that we may never hear about? So I don't know. But that's an amazing thought there. Ricky in the chat says, I saw a thing where the kid was scared, saying he had a monster in his room, and they found, let me see here. I gotta scroll up again. 50,000 bees in his wall. That's terrifying. So, yeah. Yep. No, thank you. Yeah, I've been stung a few times over the years. That's enough for me. I don't need to be dealing with that many bees. Worst case with that, I was stung right above my right eye once by a bee, and that thing just closed it all the way up, pretty much. But yeah, so, and the buzzing thing, that's something too that comes up in some paranormal things where there is sort of like a buzzing, but it's not actual real bees or animals. So, but yeah, so that's definitely all the time we have for today for stories. But let's see here. Yeah, that many buzzing would sound like a growl. Yeah, could sound like a growl. Yeah, DG in the chat there says that. Yeah. So thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all on the next episode of Salsidoparanormal. Take care.